Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show, it's about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Bear, Season 2, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we have that opening with Sid and her dad, which I thought was so interesting, and I felt so bad for Sid. She kept trying on a different coast because I guess it's just a thing of she just hasn't had time with just everything being as it is to have them washed, and maybe even when she had them washed, the stains just didn't come out, and she doesn't have enough to probably get any new jackets on the short term, so she has to go with one that's probably as least notable stain as possible. But her dad's going to be coming to the opening situation, so it's okay, you're going to be there, and he wants to try and preface it for her because he wants to alleviate some of the stress, because he knows how Sid can be, that she can kind of over focus and over analyze something and kind of internalize that and kind of take it out on herself, if she doesn't reach these high expectations she has of herself. But it's I kind of have to, that's what this is all about. And her dad's just trying to tell her, no matter what happens, I will love you, you can live here forever, I don't care, I just want you to be, I don't want you to kind of because he was there the last time her business fell, and I think he saw firsthand the depression she was in, and even she's admitted she doesn't think she'll be able to go through something like that again. If she hits rock bottom, if something like this fails again, it's going to shatter her, and she doesn't think she'll be able to piece herself back together. And her dad had this beautiful point that he was trying to make, that he was just asking, why does this have to be... Why can't you just put your everything, why do you have to kind of put your everything into this? And she's like, why can't you, she's like, why wouldn't I put my everything into everything? And he's like, but that's my point. If that's the case, why are you putting everything into this one thing? Why are you putting all your eggs in this one basket? Because for her, it's he's like, why does this one thing have to be the thing? Why does it have to be, it's this, it's all or nothing? And for her, it's because I don't know if I could handle another one, I guess a combination of, this is all I want, this is what I'm putting my all into, but also if this fails, I don't think I have it in me to go for anything else. And just kind of trying to de-escalate that conversation from being the kind of tense thing that it is. She's just kind of well, I'll see you, and bounces. So at the restaurant, obviously, it's we're this is kind of a test run. They're opening the doors, but it's also going to be a test run to try and work out any flaws, So you have Carmen. This is the entire episode where he's kind of stressed, because it is the point that Sid had brought up previously is now being brought up, and Carmen's really it's really sinking in for Carmen of right, he isn't giving Sid his undivided attention. It's Sid is giving this her all. She is putting everything on this gamble, and it's you're not focused. I mean, hell, he even has Jimmy tell him a story later on. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about it, but yeah, Jimmy had the whole story about staying focused. I love that whole metaphor of just all right, it's this particular baseball game, and it's okay, Gonzalez ends up being the person that everyone, he messed up. This gives a solid enough player, but no one really knows his name anymore. You know why? And he tells this whole story about all right, the guy messed up, and his mess up had the most ripple effect ever, and it cost him the entire game. It's when you break that story down, it is god awful of just yes, one misstep can be your entire undoing, which I don't get why, to me, I guess it's the stress of what this job is and what this is everything is on the line, because even Jimmy's I don't want to take this place from you. I don't want to have to tear it down and rebuild something in its place, but I will take this place from you, and I will tear it down if I have to. I don't want to, but it will come to that, so you need to get your head in the game. He's oh, do you, because I love the ending of the story of the reason why no one really remembers Gonzalez, even though he's the screw up, even though he's the literal fuck up, his fuck up led to so many other fuck ups. It all started with him. He's kind of the asshole in this situation from Jimmy's perspective. But all people remember is, Steve, Barkman or something like that? Or Berkman or something like that? He's a fan that when someone out in the outfield tried to reach for a ball that was about to go, a guy reached over trying to grab a foul ball, and he was like any fan would be. I mean, there are videos of stuff like that too, of just a catcher about to grab the ball, but then a fan grabs it. I don't think this is that particular incident, because this particular incident, the hand and I'm assuming the way they're going about it, it is a real thing that happened. But he ended up, both their gloves hit and he missed the ball. And it's like, that's all anyone focuses on, that fan of like, he's garbage and he gets all the blame. But he was like, right, he's doing what any fan in that situation would do. Like, it would have ever even gotten to that point if it wasn't for this particular guy, was it Gonzalez or whatever, like his fuck up is what led to all of it. But all the people do is focus on that fan. And I love that, he's like, so what is the moral of the story? And, Carmen's like, not to be that fan dude. It's like, no, not to be the guy who fucked it, like the Gonzalez guy. It's like, don't be him. Like, are you not listening? Are you not focusing? And he's like, yeah, you, like, once again, you have to put your blood, sweat, and tears. You have to put everything into this. Do not lose focus. And then Carmen kind of brings up the fact, it's like, I've kind of been dating someone. He's like, wow, that's like the greatest thing. Like, Jimmy's like, I've never heard anything that made me more happy, because he's happy to know, like, hey, Carmen has someone in his life. But you know what? That also makes me say, uh-oh, because for him, it's like, that's another thing in your life that's going to distract you from making this a success. You need this to work out, or it's all going to go up in flames. And like I said, it's not just him telling him that, it's not just Jimmy, it's also Sid about, like, right, he's not losing focus, because he's like, hey, you're supposed to call the fridge guy, which, did he actually call the fridge guy? Because Claire called him at the same time, and just as he's got, like, the fridge guy's contact up, you got the little symbol of Claire calling, and just Carmen staring, and he doesn't make a choice in that moment. I mean, by his inaction was a choice, because Marcus, like, distracted him, was like, oh, can you taste this? And it's like, oh yeah, sure thing. But it's like, it's symbolic of just so much that in that moment, he didn't actually make the decision. Like, he could have answered, or he could have just denied the call, but he just let it ring. You know, she left him a voicemail, and who knows if he actually got back to Claire. Who knows what she was trying to contact him about. Probably try to give him some good news. But it's like, it's just a thing of, yeah, I like her, and I think she's good for me. She's actually great, but he's scared of screwing it up, and especially where his mind is, because, like, he was stressing about it at the beginning of the episode. Just like, oh, God. Carmen's character just makes you so antsy yourself. It's just like, I'm thinking about the scenes, and I'm like, it makes me uneasy thinking about his scenes. Like I said, it's just like, there's this, I brought it up before, like, it's just, I won't even call it manicness. I don't know how to describe it. Carmen's character just makes me uneasy. Like, he makes my skin crawl, like, with just how stressful he is. It just, because I don't deal with stress, right? I am not properly equipped myself with the tools to deal with stress. And so him just being stressed out, stressing me out, and I'm like, I hate it. It just, he makes me, out of any character, he makes me uncomfortable, but also just the nature of the show. It is that show of, you're like, shit, when is the other shoe going to drop? Because especially this episode, like I said, he never even got back to the fridge guy on screen. So I'm like, did you actually get back to Tony, the fridge guy? Which I even love. Nat was like, Tom. It's like, Tom? Is it Tom, the fridge guy? It's like, no, it's Tony. So it's like, well, I guess you can, she's in a position where she can be forgiven, because it's like, right, she's got mom brain, pregnancy brain, really. But, one and the same, really. But Carmen, it's like, you can't be fucking up, homie. You in particular, you got to keep your head on a swivel with this situation. So, especially because I think Nat also is very good about this. She never said the exact words, but she was like, she didn't say, are you okay? She was kind of asking around it, but like, maybe I'm misremembering, but I really remember focusing on her and Carmen's scene where she was like, yeah, I invited mom. And it took Carmen a couple beats before he was like, wait, you invited mom? And she's like, yes, it's family and friends. And it's like, you're like, oh boy, we saw the last get together. Like, I wonder if that Christmas, it seems like that Christmas was like the last time, like, a lot of them got together. That's probably the last time everyone got together, with Mike in particular. That's why I'm also thinking, like, there's kind of I feel like it could either go either way, where it's like things could be fine or not fine, because mostly everyone's going to be there. It seems like we'll see who doesn't show up, because we know already Steven and Michelle aren't going to be there, and obviously Mike's gone, so he's not going to be there, but their mom is going to be there, which Carmen's like, no, I'm fine with it, because I've accepted, like, that's going to be a fucking mess regardless. But he's more so worried about Sugar, because, like, for Nat, it's, hey, you are banking on a miracle happening with our mom, that everything is going to be okay. Let's hope you never say the words okay around her again. But it's like I said, I think she's gotten better about it, because she's not even asking Carmen, but she knows that's not as much of a trigger for Carmen as it is their mom. But I wonder, is that going to be the ironic thing, that someone is going to ask Carmen if he's okay, and he's going to fucking snap? Just like this mom, like I said, it feels like it's going to be a repeat of the Christmas dinner. Maybe it won't be. I mean, we don't know how things have been between Carmen and his mom post all of that. We really don't even know how things are between Nat and their mom post all of that. So, especially how much Mike's death affected and changed that and her. We'll have to see it because I can. That's just going to be interesting to see. Even something as simple as Sid making Natalie a omelet. I don't know why I was worried, like, is that going to screw something up? Because, right, she's using dishes or, like, she's using certain pans and she's using ingredients. Like, is that going to fuck things up? And, like, I was worried. I'm like, is it going to be a bad thing that but it's like, no, it was kind of a non-issue, but it's just like, no, she's feeding Natalie and it felt good. It's like, yeah, I'm good at this. But for her, it's just, I think when it's something small like that, Sid can shine, but when it gets to like the bigger picture, she gets scared. As she talks about it later on with Carmen, they had this beautiful moment when they're like, you know, fixing the table a little bit, where it's like, hey, because they had that back and forth where Carmen's like, yeah, I'm sorry about the whole Claire thing. I want you to know, like, you have my focus. And she's like, no, I don't want you to think it was like a jealousy thing or not. But he's like, no, but you deserve all my focus. And she'll say, you know, Claire is great. She sounds like she is. She's like, yeah, she really is. And for her, it's just a situation of she's scared of fucking things up. Because she's like, you don't actually need me. Like, the fact is you can run this place on your own. He's like, no, I couldn't. She's like, yeah, you can. He's like, but I wouldn't want to. You make me better. And she's like, yeah, I mean, you make me better. So it is a thing of like, we are a well-oiled machine. We have our hiccups, but we are better for each other. Which I won't lie to you. There was a part of me like, that's not going to turn into something more than just a partnership. That, like, they have their own language. They understand each other in a way like no one else in a restaurant. So that's why I almost wondered if that was going to be the case. I was kind of scared. I'm like, you're in a relationship right now. And considering like the tiny bits, I'm like, okay, like I know ahead of time about the finale of like, once again, I heard someone use the word heartbreaking finale. That I'm like, what the hell happens in this finale? That I'm just like, everything goes to shit, I'm assuming. But in what way, in what manner, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm like, I was kind of wondering if Carmen was going to like screw things up with Claire, because even he admit like, oh, I'm scared, and I think maybe that might lead to him doing something to kind of sabotage it just to prevent things from going further, because it's like, right, I'd rather ruin things now and I'm kind of nipping in the bud than kind of let this go on for too long. And, you know, it's like I end up kind of wasting Claire's time and just kind of all blows up in my face. And, you know, I think all of that. So I was wondering, like, throughout the entirety of that scene, I'm like, they're not going to, like, kiss or anything, are they? Because I think they'd be interesting as a couple, but I'm also just like, they're in the position they are right now, and I think it's just because that would cause the most chaos, and I thought that might be what they're leaning towards. But because Sid had her moment with Marcus earlier, where Marcus was like, yo, you do anything after? She's like, yeah, probably like throwing up for like 40 minutes. And he's like, no, I'm going to take you out. She's like, no, I got all this other stuff to do. I mean, she's like, it's not like you were like asking me out, because that would be weird. He's like, oh, it'd be weird. She's like, no, I don't mean it would be weird. You know what I mean. He's like, yeah, cool. She's like, yeah, so I'm gonna go. She's like, fuck. And he's just like, fuck. It's like, yeah, that blew up in their face. And so later on at the meeting, Sid got there a little late. You notice who followed afterwards. It was Marcus. So it's like, because, once again, it's kind of been pretty obvious that Marcus has a thing for Sid, but I don't know if Sid's kind of in an opposite position, or she's in a similar but also opposite position of Carmen, where it's like Carmen's has a relationship right now, but everything and even himself is screaming like, I shouldn't be in a relationship right now. I should kind of cut Claire off to focus on this, you know. And as Jimmy put it, it's like, oh, kind of like you're going to be kicked in the nutsack for the foreseeable future and just kind of accept that. But then you have whereas Sid's on the other side of like, every aspect of her life falls short except for this. It's like my focus isn't on anything else, not a relationship. There's just too much on the line for me to kind of screw this up. This is do or die time. So I kind of don't even have, like, maybe under different circumstances, maybe there'd be a her and Marcus. Maybe even after all of this is said and done, there probably still couldn't be a her and Marcus because she has to focus so much. So, because they're breaking in the new chefs, trying to get them in line, trying to make sure everything's in order. I even love that moment with Tina where she's like, right, I'm still been using your knife. Sorry, I haven't given it back to you. He's like, I don't remember asking for you to give it back. And Tina smiles. I'm like, I love that. I also love a boys Gary and Neil in suits. It's like, yo, we're front people now doing, well, I think Gary kind of worked in the back a little bit, but I think he kind of served as like that in between. I think he did a little front and a little back. But, I love Richie doing his thing, kind of talking about everything. And he made that antidote, that when, like, everyone, like, I love Neil was just kind of ride or die with it. He's just head down, being like, kind of nodding, like, yeah, that's my boy Richie spitting. You see Gary kind of looking from his eye, like, yo. And even, Nat was almost like, yo, look at Richie making this metaphor. Like, cause I'm not even going to, because the reference he was making, like, I don't know that. It sounded like something from like some particular mythology. It seemed like it was pulling from, I can't even remember it off the top of my head, but yeah, just everyone that was up there with him seemed captivated in that moment about it. So I was like, that's so interesting. I also love the gift that Carmen got. Got Sid. He got her that new jacket. It's like, oh, her, and it's just like, just when she needed it most. I guess he already knew ahead of time, but maybe he already had it. It's just like, oh, you're definitely going to need it now because, like, oh, your other coats are staying. Or, like I said, maybe he paid enough attention of like, yeah, I have enough focus to notice that, and that you'll need this kind of like your battle armor as Richie kind of described his suits, which I love. That, like I said, him, Gary, and Neil being in one, and even later on, Neil's like, yo, why would I have a screwdriver, homie? Like, I'm not that guy anymore. I handle the front side of things now. I'm different now. He's like, wow, you've really changed. He's like, no, I'm just fucking with you, Carmen. Of course I got a screwdriver over here. He's like, but also it's like, yo, is Claire Bear going to be here? Because I think it's going to be really nice that she'll be here. And even Richie being like, yeah, like she, I like her too. So Carmen's, like I said, it's just that Claire situation. I don't know what's going to go down in this finale. I just get the feeling like that's going to be at the center. I think everything's just going to go to shit, and I'm just so terrified. It might end up being worse than the Christmas episode of like, in the capacity of like everything that went down, it's like it was just a giant shitstorm that was just like the wind started picking up and then it just all finally hit the fan. Like, it feels like it's going to be like 2-3 times as worse and as heartbreaking and just as fucked. Oh man, especially because I forgot about it. Sid ended up walking past one of the restaurants. It's that restaurant she went to in, I think it was episode 3, when she was tasting stuff out, and she was also kind of looking for some people for the bear, to kind of work at the bear. And one of the places she went to was like someone she worked with in the past. The restaurant they're a part of is going to be permanently closing like on the 1st. And it's just like, cool, the restaurant I'm a part of is about to open. And once again, like, these typically fail massively within the first year, but just in general, like a lot. Once again, it's not something that, it's very rare for it to kind of work out. The ones that work out is an exception. That's the sad thing of stuff can be open for like a decade plus and then just shit could happen, like a pandemic, and maybe you just, sadly, there are plenty of places, real life wise, I'm sure it's also it's definitely reflected in the show as well, that are the places that have been around for so long, whether they're like prestigious or mom and pops, that just couldn't bounce back. There's a lot of things that couldn't bounce back, because of COVID, so. It's just a lot, and I'm so curious to see where the season finale takes us going forward with all of this, like, just ending on that moment of like, all right, Sid, just you say the word, and she says it, let it rip, and Richie goes to unlock the door, so, because her stress was like, what if no one shows up? And it's like, well, we'll deal with it. Well, what if people do show up? What if everyone shows up, but the food's not good? It's just like, once again, just every possibility is running through her head. It's running through Carmen's head. And he was like, yeah, like, I fuck up on an everyday basis. But she's like, yeah, you do, but your fuck ups are nowhere near mine. Mine are just like cosmic. It's just like, once again, it's just, she's got a lot of pressure on her. Everyone does. Like, once again, this has to work out for so many reasons. Nat, Sid, and Carmen are all in the same boat of having to need this work. In fact, I'd say Sid and Richie are very much in the same boat of they need this to work because this is their home and this is where they belong. And if this goes up, like, where do we go from here? So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the season finale. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.